Well, I guess it happened almost 6 years ago. It was April 24th. It's a Friday night, 2015. And I kept getting these phone calls, the numbers I didn't recognize. And I was ignoring them. And finally, I picked it up. And it was an emergency room doctor in San Diego telling me that they had my husband in the emergency room, that he had arrested. And the first words out of my mouth were, "Is he alive?" And they said yes. They had started his heart back up with epinephrine. We think maybe he had a seizure either while he was eating or choked on dinner, which caused him to go into respiratory and cardiac arrest. We're not really sure what happened, but he was very, very ill. They did CPR on him for about 15 minutes on the way to the hospital. So I realized Dave was in very, very serious trouble. And I remember on the plane thinking, who's going to walk Annie down the aisle if Dave doesn't make it? And I just could only think about Isaiah 41:10, "Do not fear, for I am with you. Do not anxiously look about you, for I am your God. I will strengthen you. I will help you. I will hold you up with my righteous right hand." And I just knew that God was in control and that I just had to give it to him. There was absolutely nothing I could do except pray. I remember being on the balcony of the hotel room, sitting with my cup of coffee and my Bible in the morning and looking across at the hospital and just praying and asking God to please heal my husband. As a nurse, I knew the chances were not good, that there was every reason medically to believe the outcome would not be good. When we got to see Dave, he was intubated. He was in an induced coma. He did not even look like himself. The next several days, we had a lot of bumps in the road. It looked like Dave was going to make a very smooth, quick recovery, which was miraculous because he was a man in his 60s, and most people who have arrested that long without oxygen don't do so well. Well, as it turns out, we hit a big bump in the road. I remember 1:30 in the morning getting a call at my hotel that they thought Dave had had a stroke, and they were taking him down for a CT scan. And I just remember I couldn't even get up out of bed. I was just so exhausted at that point, and I just gave it up to God. I just told the Lord, I can't even get up, Lord. There's just one more thing, but it's in your hands. That Sunday, I remember standing by his bedside, and I got a text message from Tess, and it was pictures of the church. People that morning in the services coming to the altar and praying for Dave and me. And I remember standing there seeing those, and I just felt so moved and so strengthened because I knew God was hearing their prayers. I knew I had such a loving, strong church family whose faith was strong. And I immediately showed the nurses and the respiratory therapists and all those people who were working on Dave and around his bedside, look at my pictures here. This is my church family. They're at the altar praying for Dave. And I knew God was going to hear their prayers. A few days later, the neurologist had decided that it was time to wake Dave up. And as a nurse, I was thinking, oh Lord, please, I'm actually okay if you want to take Dave, but please don't allow him to live and just be a vegetable. And I knew that was possible. I just didn't know what was going to be left. So the neurologist was standing on one side of his bed, and Annie and I were on the other side with Waleed, the resident. And they decreased the sedation, gave him something to wake him up, and he opened his eyes. And the neurologist put his hand out and said, "Dave, take my hand, squeeze my hand." And we were all just standing there watching. And I was just praying, please God, let there be something. Let us have a glimmer of hope here. And Dave reached up and grabbed the guy's hand strongly. And at that point, I just fell to my knees at his bedside. And I knew that God had come through for me. I knew that no matter what was in the future, that he had met me where I needed right now, right there and then. Dave was going to be okay. Things are not exactly the same as they were, but I'm just so thankful that God saw us through that difficult time. It was life-changing. I just remember thinking, how will we ever get through this? But we did. We did. And it was really a day at a time and a prayer at a time. And we just went from one prayer to the next, and God sustained us through that. And I don't know, for anyone that goes through something like that, I would just encourage them to, first of all, reach out to your family, reach out to your church family, people who love you, accept their help, accept their prayers and support and love, because you're going to need it. And stay in the Word. I remember carrying my big old Bible on the plane because I just had to be in it. And having that comfort, that presence of Jesus Christ through His Word really got me through. And I just thank my church family because I love you all so much.